someone dead. He could spend up to 48 years in prison, or he could spend much less. Rogel Aguilera Mederos, who had no desire to harm anyone, is due to spend 110 years behind bars.
And it is not for us to determine whether that is a just sentence. You might have one answer. The families of the 4 people left dead on I-70 in Lakewood might have another. However, it is our responsibility to respond to a question being asked around the country tonight. How did we end up with a law that requires the driver of a runaway truck be treated like a murderer or worse than one? Here with tonight's top story is Megan Lopez.
It was an unforgettable tragedy, the crash on I-70 on April 25, 2019. 4 lives lost, 4 families left without a loved one, many others injured. It's important to keep them in mind as we talk about the sentencing of Rogel Aguilera Mederos, the inexperienced truck driver behind that tragedy. He was handed 110 years in prison.
Once you have 23 felonies with mandatory minimums that are served consecutively, that can quickly add up.
DU law professor Ian Farrell says Colorado has mandatory minimum rules and sentence enhancers that are more extreme than other states.
No discretion on a minimum sentence.
I think that this length of sentence for this particular defendant is vastly disproportionate.
That sentence inspired a Change.org petition that's garnered more than 3.1 million signatures. On social media,
shut down city.
A call for truckers to boycott Colorado until Aguilera Mederos is released or the law is changed.
I'm not seeing really anything that's showing up so much in that boycott.
That's Greg Fulton from the Colorado Motor Carriers Association. They spent a lot of time this week trying to clear up misinformation.
The petition which was out there seems to indicate that he was not responsible for this. And unfortunately, the facts don't seem to support that.
Instead, he says it was the driver's fault that the brakes overheated. He also doesn't give credence to a video that's quickly being reshared on social media of an alleged boycott.
It looked like it may have been from a different time.
He believes that's a highway closure. Fulton says 110 years seems too stiff, but the driver was at fault, so he doesn't think a pardon or commutation are appropriate.
I think it's important that, as an industry, we take responsibility.
Instead, maybe eventually, he says the sentence could be reevaluated. As for Farrell, he says some of Colorado's laws could, maybe even should, change.
To abolish the consecutive, or at least alter the consecutive sentencing rules.
But again, none of this makes what happened in 2019 any less of a tragedy for the people who died, the people affected, and even that truck driver.
Rogel Aguilera. Truckers, he needs our help. This truck is no longer going to Colorado. We want justice for Rogel Aguilera. Truckers, he needs our help.